Hello good people, and welcome back to Level Up Your Openings. Let's erase the idea of memorizing openings and instead focus on chess principles coupled with pattern recognition. I swear it's not rocket science, especially since we're not going against grandmasters or super GMs. Today, we will look at something a bit more dynamic and gambity. The bishop's opening. Let's boost that ELO.
Round one, fight!
Before I begin and before I forget, if you do enjoy this content and it's helping you boost your ELO, please leave a like and sub. You have my gratitude. Let's get started. So the bishop opening is characterized by e4, e5, and then immediately bishop to c4, eyeing a d5 twice instead of the usual knight to f3. After knight to f6, d4 is presented, and now there's options for black to take here or take here. And we'll look at the option where black takes here. It could be tricky. I want to show you guys. So bishop's opening, the one variation we'll look at, and then another anti-Petrov of some sort. e4, e5, bishop to c4, and immediately, I drew so many arrows prior to, attacking d5 and eyeing f7 there. Knight to f6, you could defend, but we're not playing that opening. The d4 immediately, attacking the center. It's a very gambity type opening, and in this variation, knight takes on e4, and then d takes on e5. And mind you, the capture gives white a bit of time. This pawn was not free. It's not free because we've already established this idea, meaning that there needs to be urgency for black, because if you say play bishop to e7, then you get totally and completely cooked. After trying to defend this, takes, and then you get checkmated. In this position, after takes here, knight to c5, or immediately this move, preventing shenanigans, and then you're ready to attack the center. But in this position, what happens if knight to c5 happens? Then you have knight to f3, completing your development. Bishop to e7, bishop to f4, hitting that, attacking the center, and then knight to c3, knight to e6, attacking, and then putting the knight on a relevant square. So push back, and then castles, queen to e2. And you'll see the theme that we're going for here. You have the option of castling long or castling king. And all of black's pawns are still in the 7th rank. In this variation, f5 was played. The idea to trap our bishop. Of course, you could also play bishop to b4. And it gets tricky because you have to memorize all this stuff, of which I don't recommend. It's just look how centralized our pieces are. And there's ideas here, and there's ideas here. f5 was played. Like I said, the intention is twofold. I can't draw her as well. It's to trap the bishop, but also if you take, it relieves the pressure because you now no longer have this pawn on e5 at black's throat. In this position, I recommend, and in the game too, castling queen. And you can't just push here, because then after takes on e6, it's a very, very sharp game. So black knows that and plays queen to e8, unpinning the queen. But here we have knight to d5. Idea is to fork. Because the king is pinned, there's not much you can do. So the king unpins itself, but now we play knight to f4, thwarting any idea of expansion. And the opponent here plays a6, a slight inaccuracy because goes absolutely crazy here, but you need to go g5. And that's to beat the odds of h4. And after takes, you try to open up here because the king is being aimed at like a cannon. After g4, knight to g5, I'd still take this over as as white is in a great spot. Look how bad the pieces are for black. So here, after the push, knight to f4, a6 was played, and now h4. The idea is to use this as an anchor for your knight, and then just pry this open and just dominate right here, guys. Hits, and now you just trade. You've given up a pretty active bishop, but black is still quite delayed. And now you have knight to g5, bishop to c4, trying to establish counterplay. In this position, there's an absolutely killer move I want you to consider. With everything that's been said, you have two knights just knocking at the king's door. What is the killer, amazing move here for white? I'll give you 3, 2, 1, and go. The answer is sacrifice the rook. Looks insane, right? Yes, it is. Because after takes, queen to h5. And the idea is to threaten checkmate. If you go here, you get checkmated. The opponent went this way. And now queen to g5, still threatening mate. It's too late for the queen to go. So after takes, opening up the center, king 2. And now you re-threaten the idea of checkmate right here. If you try to stop it, you can't. You get absolutely destroyed. And just going back to the open check there, king moves to g8, queen to h5, threatening to close this position. Rook tries to create play there, but after the check here, you've got a check. And now we push. Now we go here. Queen to g7 is mate. And all those variations is just overwhelming for black. So it's a very trappy setup involving, like I said, e4, e5, bishop to c4 immediately, knight to f6, and then d4. If takes, you take this threat. Again, if they don't play the strongest move here and play knight to c5, it's a roller coaster that kind of favors white. So, culminating in two knights in front of the king, and the brilliant rook 2, threaten mate, and re-threaten idea of closing all the exit squares. The second position we'll look at, it's not particularly called a bishop opening, but you can apply the principle. It's e4, e5, and then if knight f3, knight f6, and they offer a Petrov, well, they might be in for rude awakening with d4. Again, super sharp, e takes, and then you go bishop 2, ignoring that and accelerating your development, attacking this twice. Now after takes, if they get greedy, you take with the queen, bishop to c5, and now you hit the queen. You force this idea of f6 to ruin the structure, and now you go back. In this position, after d5 is pushed, where black tries to assert dominance in the dark squares, you simply castle long, and you could see already that it's a super dynamic position. Of course, you can't take because you get barbecued completely. Bishop to e7 after, queen to h4. Still maintaining the pin, and it's very, very insidious because you're asking and forcing black to castle on this side, but then there's ideas here, and the queen can't even take. So I swear I can draw lines. So after queen moves to h4, trying to prod and poke on light squares, if black castles, that's an outright blunder, and I want you guys to look for it, or I could just tell you guys, which I will, and the idea is knight 2. Then you don't take with this, you take with the idea of attacking the queen and a kill Supri right there. So if the queen tries to hide, which it would, there's two ways to do this. You could gobble up the queen with open check immediately, or play the super strong bishop 2, takes on c5, and then threatening and re-threatening mate, because basically g8 is off limits. So if you try to block it, you totally get destroyed. So that's not what happened in the game. After queen to h4, knight b to d7, blocking the line, defending. But still, I want you guys to look at the position and kind of guess or gauge what would be the most vicious idea here. Now that this is weak, in 3, or rather the answer in 3, 2, 1. So you check first, and then you capture. This is absolutely insane because the rook is already aimed at the queen here, and you're threatening checkmate. And the king is stuck in the middle, and if they do anything sketchy here, they get checkmated either way. So, knight 2, trying to alleviate the pressure, but after takes, positionally, the king is stuck in the middle. Here comes your next rook, so this is advantage for white. The other thing we'd like to look at is after queen to h5 would check, and then the king migrates to f8, trying to get out of the e-file, and then takes. This results in a more violent position where white is actually winning, and by a landslide. Queen to e8, rook aimed again, and say you either play this or a waiting move because you can't really do much. After rook 2, knight to g5. Because of the dominance here, and the king doesn't really have a lot of squares to go, simply queen to f3 check, you block, and then take a surprise attack. And the game is over, guys. The game is absolutely crushed. So anyways, I hope that was not too trappy or too complicated, and you got something out of it. I don't play a lot of gambit openings. I'm trying to play a mix of both, more on the solid side and less of the gambit side, but it's good to know the gambit's just for tricks, but also create chaos in the board while applying chess principles. Hope you got something out of that, guys. I'll see you guys later. Double peace.